One Piece is filled with some truly amazing villains that we both hate to love and love to hate, but the following are the best of them all. In the 10th spot, we're starting off with Kizaru. He is the second admiral to be truly introduced to this series and showed up during the Sabaody Archipelago arc. When Kizaru first showed up in Sabaody, every pirate began running for their life. Not that it really mattered though, because Kizaru could easily catch them if he bothered to try. With the help of his devil fruit powers, Kizaru was able to easily defeat multiple members of the worst generation. Kizaru also fought against the Straw Hat Pirates and nearly killed all of them, but luckily Rayleigh and Kuma stepped in. Kizaru was involved in Marineford where he injured Whitebeard, Luffy, and Marco. Although we haven't seen a serious fight in a while, Kizaru and his abilities are truly terrifying. I mean, even the way he speaks kinda makes me nervous. Despite being extremely powerful and having amazing devil fruit, I have a hard time putting Kizaru higher up on this list. He just doesn't have enough screen time, and then there's the fact that I don't know if he's truly that evil. I guess we just really haven't gotten to see everything, he just doesn't seem like he's that great of a person. Next up we have the 9th spot, which is filled by Arlong. Now Arlong's probably the first villain that any of us really took seriously. When Arlong first showed up, he struck fear into everyone and showed us just how cruel he could be towards humans. Especially if you're like me, where you were watching the English dub as a kid and you got to hear the beautiful voice of Hercule from Dragon Ball Z. Early on in One Piece, he was an otherworldly species that was banned from the ranks of an infamous pirate crew. When Arlong entered the East Blue, he essentially did whatever he could be as despicable as possible. Arlong immediately raided a village and extorted money from the villagers. He ended up killing Nami's mother and essentially enslaving Nami as their navigator. His backstory does a great job of rationalizing some of his evil behavior. Now while Arlong's a great villain, he's just not as great as the next villain on our list. And that brings us to the 8th spot, which is filled by Enel. Now a lot of us will remember Enel as the former god of Skypiea and the main antagonist of the Skypiea arc. Enel was able to take over Skypiea with the help of his insanely powerful Rumble fruit. Enel was also one of the first characters to display the true power of Mancha, or observation haki. Since he was one of the first characters that we actually got to see use haki, it made Enel, along with his devil fruit abilities, seem truly unbeatable. And due to how strong his observation haki and devil fruit were, the people of Skypiea believed that Enel was really a god and that they had to follow him and do as he said or give up their own lives as they knew it. One of the biggest issues that I have with Enel is that Luffy's just incredibly lucky to possess a devil fruit that has a natural counter to Enel's lightning. Otherwise, Luffy's journey to becoming Pirate King would have been cut short prematurely. Enel's a relentless, overpowered being who shocked everyone. At least at that point in One Piece, he couldn't even be hit by normal attacks. He's even able to wipe out villages from miles away. And on top of all of this, he's even able to come back from the dead. Enel's able to restart his heart with his devil fruit ability. That all being said, Enel falls behind other villains on this list because he's at such a disadvantage when fighting Luffy. Luffy is after all the series protagonist, and a well-crafted villain should have powers and abilities that allow them to beat the hero, not to be put in a disadvantage by them. It's hard to truly fear Enel when we know that Luffy has such a big advantage on him. After all, Luffy's literally a perfect match for Enel. On top of all this, I just find him a little lazy, which prevents him from going any higher. Moving on to our next villain, we have Rob Lucci, who is the main antagonist in Water 7 and the Enies Lobby arc. Lucci gained the reputation of being a cold-blooded killer among Marines. This is primarily because this is truly who he is. Lucci does whatever he needs to do in order to accomplish the task in front of him. Lucci was going to accomplish his goal no matter what the Straw Hats said or did. It was clear that he wasn't really going to hand Robin over to the Straw Hats and was willing to destroy everything in order to stop Luffy from getting her. What makes Lucci a great villain is that he believes in absolute justice, and is a great example of why the world government is so terrifying. The world government's best soldiers will do everything they can without really questioning their commands. This is primarily because they think the world government is right and they need to do whatever they can to keep the world in working order. The next villain on our list is actually you because you aren't subscribed to the channel. If you want to get your name off this list, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But in all seriousness, let's move on to the next person on this list, which is Big Mom. She's terrifying and extremely unstable, which is the opposite of Lucci. On top of being extremely large and powerful, she's got a devil fruit ability that allows her to interact with and manipulate human souls. This allows her to steal human souls as well. Outside of how strong she is, it's worth noting that Big Mom is incredibly adept at using haki. One thing that makes her a great villain is that her mental state's an absolute mess, and because of that you never really know what she's going to do and how she might steal your soul. During the whole Cake Island arc, it's pretty obvious that Big Mom is way out of Luffy's league. Despite Luffy improving so much, he's still at a huge disadvantage. I think Big Mom was extremely well written by Oda, and the introduction of Big Mom and her crew was incredibly well done. Moving on from Big Mom, we've got her ally Kaido in the 5th spot. Kaido is the main antagonist in the Wano arc, and we also know that he battled Shanks before Shanks came to Marineford. He took over the land of Wano several decades ago and values strength above anything else. One other thing that makes Kaido a great villain is that he's always looking for a good fight. It's also worth noting that only a handful of characters have actually been able to hurt Kaido in the past. This shows that Kaido's insanely strong. Throughout the series, we see that Kaido actually wipes out multiple members of the worst generation with relative ease. He's actually been able to beat Luffy twice already, and it's pretty obvious that Luffy required quite a bit of help in order to take him down. Kaido's a truly terrifying man, and this is seen throughout the series as he constantly strikes fear into other characters who are scared of upsetting him. He's just that powerful. Next up on our list we have Fleet Admiral Akainu, and his main priority in life is to ensure that those standing in his and the world government's way will be stopped no matter what. During the buster call in Ohara, Akainu casually destroyed an entire ship that was carrying civilians. At Marineford, Akainu manipulated Squard into stabbing Whitebeard, and later on he killed Ace. And to me the defining moment of just how evil Akainu was the fact that he was willing to kill Kobe just for standing up to him. Akainu stands for everything that Luffy and his crew believe in. He'll do whatever it takes to make sure that there's order in the world and that there are no real threats to the world government. And while order and justice aren't necessarily evil, it's pretty evil when he's directly serving the Celestial Dragons. Now you might debate what the most powerful devil fruit in One Piece is, but you can't argue that he's literally a walking volcano and he might erupt at any time and destroy a whole town or country. On top of this, I'm sure we're going to see him do a lot more evil things now that he's Fleet Admiral. He's sure to be a main plot point as the series begins to wind down. With all that being said, Akainu could easily end up being one of the best villains in One Piece. His potential to be the best villain in One Piece is there, and it's just up to Oda and how he uses him. Now moving on to the third spot, we've got Blackbeard. Despite his looks, Blackbeard is actually very calculated. He'll quickly run away from a fight if it won't really benefit him. On top of being extremely calculated, he's the only character who possesses two devil fruits, those being the Tremor fruit and the Dark fruit. Blackbeard has been directly or indirectly responsible for multiple deaths in the series. He captured and delivered Ace to the world government and delivered the final blow to Whitebeard, as well as killing multiple innocent people. He's one of the most feared pirates in One Piece right now and has a huge target on his back from the world government. Blackbeard has been primed as Luffy's endgame opponent for quite a while now. The man is literally the definition of a pirate, raiding whatever he wants and conspiring against the government in order to get what he needs. All of this makes Blackbeard an incredibly dangerous villain. Like Akainu, Blackbeard has a lot of potential to rise up and become the best villain in all of One Piece. We'll just have to wait and see what Oda's got planned and see if Blackbeard can live up to the hype. That brings us to the number 2 spot, which is filled by the former crime boss of Baroque Works, Crocodile. Crocodile was the main antagonist of the Alabasta arc, and to this day he remains one of the few characters to defeat Luffy. Not to mention that he managed to beat Luffy not once, but twice. Outside of just straight up bullying Luffy, Crocodile was able to take over an entire nation without really breaking a sweat. Crocodile also created one of the biggest schemes in the entire series, planning an entire conspiracy to take over Alabasta, all while running a criminal organization. He was the first villain in the series to give Luffy a run for his money. While enemies in the past might have given him a hard time, they never outright defeated him. Showing brains, bronze, and confidence, Crocodile certainly earned the number 2 spot in our ranking. Despite not being the strongest villain in all of One Piece, he left his mark and has made multiple appearances throughout the series and has found a way to remain relevant to the story overall. Crocodile shows that pure strength does not make you a great villain. Your planning and action can make you even more of a villain than just pure strength. And that's why our number 1 villain wanted to team up with him so badly. Before we discuss the number 1 spot, I want to jump into some honorable mentions. First off in the honorable mentions, we've got Kuzan. Although he's one of my favorite antagonists, he's just not evil enough to make this list, at least as of right now. I guess time will tell and we'll see if he's actually evil. When I think of Kuzan, I remember all the different times where he gave Robin a second chance to live. And let's not forget that he didn't kill off the Straw Hats when he had the chance to. Next up in the honorable mentions, we've got Katakuri. Now I think Katakuri is one of the best antagonists in all of One Piece and maybe all of anime. I just had a hard time putting him on this list because I don't truly think he's necessarily that evil. Katakuri was more or less just doing his duty as an older brother and trying to protect everyone in his home. Outside of Katakuri, we've got Magellan, the former chief warden of Impel Down. Magellan is one of the most fearsome fighters in the series. Magellan has complete control over an insanely deadly and poisonous devil fruit. I just have a hard time thinking that Magellan's necessarily all that evil. He's literally just doing his job and controlling an entire prison full of the most dangerous people in the world. The last honorable mention before we move on to the best villain in the entire series is Buggy the Clown. Buggy could have easily been a throwaway villain. I think Buggy's an amazing character, I just have a hard time thinking of him as a villain. He's much more of an antagonist and a rival than a villain. That brings us to the best villain in all of One Piece, which is Doflamingo. While Doflamingo is not the most powerful villain in One Piece, he is certainly the most wicked and cruel. He killed his father and brother without showing any real sign of emotion or regret. Doflamingo took over the entire country of Dressrosa while being a puppet master and turned the entire country against their former king. He also ruined the lives of countless One Piece characters. And let's not forget that on top of all of this, he was running a drug and weapon trafficking organization. Oh, and the list of terrible things that he does is so long that I completely forgot that his subordinate used to turn people into toys. There's literally nothing good about Doflamingo other than his writing. The man is just pure evil. While some characters like Im, Blackbeard, and Akainu have potential to be even better villains, Doflamingo is by far the best villain at this current time. Well, that's all I've got for this video. If you like One Piece and anime related content, make sure to subscribe to the channel.